Hi friends! Happy aftermath of Halloween. So I have not yet made a video about my Halloween costume because unfortunately I dropped it and corrupted the SD card on the Raspberry Pi. So yeah, fun times. Sometimes with tech, it breaks. And the good thing about knowing how to make things is that sometimes you know how to fix them too. When I plugged the SD card into my computer, it seems like it just got wiped. That means I'm gonna have to do the whole process again, but this is why taking notes and documenting your build process is super important. So I'm a little bit annoyed, but so it goes. Not really worth getting upset over. And it just means that, well, I'll just have to do it again. But since I've done it a couple of times now, it shouldn't be too difficult. And I thought, hey, this could be an opportunity for me to film the process so that y'all can see what I did and how I made a Raspberry Pi local web server. Boop. So this is plugged in Ethernet. There's no power right now. But in the meantime, because it's going to take me a hot second to do this next video, so I thought I could at least just talk about what I did. And a lot of what that comes down to is understanding what the internet is. And I was talking with a friend last night at a party and I was describing like what I made and she goes, "Oh my gosh, that's the best explanation of the internet I've ever heard." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Going through this project helped me understand what happens when you go to a webpage like google.com. So that's the rest of this video. I'm gonna be explaining what the internet is. Hopefully it won't take me too long. But yeah, so here we go. And a small warning. So I try to keep my videos clean and family friendly. But when I get really excited, I kind of have the mouth of a sailor in real life. So I may accidentally swear. So if you have children watching, maybe like cover their ears or something or like whatever. Okay, so internet, yeah. How does the internet work? Well, you go to a web browser. It's a little bit hard to see because the screen is super bright. But if you go to a web browser like Chrome and you type in www.google.com, if I can spell, haha, and you're like, that's the same webpage you were at, yeah. So what happens is you type in that address and the browser sends out a request via your internet service provider. So that request goes through your router. My internet's set up via Wi-Fi, so the computer actually sends a Wi-Fi packet of information to my router, and then the router transmits that through wires. I think we have we have CenturyLink, because fuck Comcast. Anyway, there's the first F-bomb. So, so your router sends that packet request out to the larger internet as a whole, which basically is like, hey, where do I go to find this google.com? What the heck is this and where is it? And so then what happens is the google.com is basically like handled by what's called a DNS server. Domain name server, I think is what it stands for. But basically what happens is you send out that request and then the information you get back is the IP address of one of the computers that holds information for the Google webpage. And since Google is a huge company, it's not going to be just one IP address. Their webpage is hosted on probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of servers around the entire world. So that IP address you might get back will be different every time, but it'll still load the same information. So basically what's happening is you type in google.com because it's a lot easier to remember than an IP address. Something like 192.168.42.1, for example. It's going to be a long number. And so your computer gets back that IP address. And the IP address is kind of like a house address. So it's like if you were going to go visit your friend, you would need to know what their physical house address is in order to go visit them. You can call it Beth's house if you want, but you actually need to know what the address is. Same thing here. Google.com is like calling it Beth's house. And then the IP address is like the physical address of where you're looking. So once you have the physical IP address, your computer can be like, yeah, let's go look and see what's on that google.com. And then it loads the HTML and other, I don't know, like prettifying code, CSS, all that good stuff. I think like JavaScript or something. I'm not super familiar with that type of stuff. But yeah, so once you have the IP address, you can actually see, you have a little window into that server, which is just a computer that doesn't have a monitor, keyboard, or mouse. Because if you're accessing it remotely, you don't really need those types of things. Network programmers, if they need to access the server, they can either do so remotely, or if it's all like broken and kaput, then they might have to come in with an HDMI cable or whatever it is to actually like see what's happening in the server. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So if you want to build, there's a lot of different types of software involved in that process. With my Raspberry Pi project, I used an Apache web server, which is basically like, it is like the foundation for the web server, and then the stuff that you actually look at is written in HTML. Yeah, okay, so that's a general big picture of what the internet is. So my goal with the Raspberry Pi, as I called it, Wandering Wearable Server project, was that you could have a local access point, or basically like when you set up your phone to be a hotspot, but this one would just host information that was only accessible on that one computer. This little Raspberry Pi right here, yeah. So then I set up a static IP address because it would be a pain to remember it all the time. And so when folks connected to the access point, which shows up in your Wi-Fi, so you go to your Wi-Fi, you would see the Gen Foxbot, access point, connect to it, and then you type in the IP address in a browser, and it would load up the HTML web page. And I got really into it, and I made a silly little, like, you can order candy from it, so I'm a candy server. Ah, pun, yay, fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I really wish I could do a little tour of that. And when I was building the project, I was like, you know, I should probably make a backup of these HTML files, because what if it breaks? Then I was like, no, it's fine. Yeah. So do as I say, not as I do, as I usually tell my students. But yeah, so what I'll be doing shortly is just going through that whole process again, and then I'll upload that video to show you how to make your own. Yay! Alright, so as always, please let me know if you have any questions about how the internet works or whatever, or about the Raspberry Pi. Yay! Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye!